We are starting today from Seif Hey. Okay? Chav Zayin Seif Hey. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Says the Shulchan Aruch. Yesh mishomer. She'im k'shenosan lo hakesef oma lo hareini noisnoi loch b'toiras kiddushin hava ka'imeli. We have the problem which we saw yesterday of yodayim she'inon moichichos. When you have a lashon, we're doing Shulchan Aruch. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got it? Good.
Yeah.
Good. So when yesterday we saw the saying Hariyat Kodeshes are not saying li. And that is called, that sugya is Yodayim She'ina Moichichos, an unclear language because it doesn't say li. Can we get round this defect by saying what? Yesh Mishaimer, this is the Rivosh. This is a Chuvas Rivosh. So the Mechaber says as follows, that the Rivosh says that if you gave her the kesef and you said the following words, Hareini noisnoi loch b'toiras kiddushin. Behold, let's translate, behold, I am giving this to you in b'toiras kiddushin. In English, we'd probably just say it doesn't sound quite so grandiose. I'm giving it to you as kiddushin. B'toiras kiddushin. In other words, it's not giving it to you as a gift. I'm not giving it to you as a loan. I'm giving you this money, b'toiras kiddushin. Is that enough to remove the defect of Yodayim She'ina Mechichos, of unclear language? There's an important word missing, which is li. Is that enough or not? So the Rivosh, now the question is, we're going to see, is a bit of a shaila.
Because
what?
I'm just
The
unclearance is that he might be a shliach for somebody else.
That's one possibility. Very good.
Yeah.
That's one possibility.
Clear out what is the suffix, like what we're confused about.
That sounds reasonable. Because he said, I'm giving it to you as Kiddushin, but Kiddushin, that's a suffix. That's one way of learning it, definitely. Is it for me, or is it could it be b'teres shlichus for somebody else? Says the Ramah, Hagar, v'tzarech, that's not enough. You also have to use language which is where it's clear that the language is to establish a relationship, a Kiddushin relationship for the future. For the future. K'gain, she'omer harei hein Kiddushin, oy Kiddushin yehiyu. Aval Omar Hein Kiddushin Lechud Einoi Klum. If you just say Hein Kiddushin, it has to be Harei Hein Kiddushin or Kiddushin Yehiyu. It has to be clear that you are not merely confirming an existing relationship or talking about something in the past, or it's that now I am with this money creating a relationship which will endure. That's the Ramah. Now. Let's see. There's a shaila here how to understand. First things first. The Beis Shmuel says as follows: the Shulchan Aruch. How do you understand the Shulchan Aruch? And this, by the way, is an important halacha, important klal rather, in the Klalei HaShulchan Aruch. When the Shulchan Aruch brings a single opinion, and not a dissenting opinion. He says, Yesh Misha Omer. Usually what it means is that it is a single opinion. In other words, it's not a composite based on a Gemara of, the Rif, the Rambam, the Rosh, the Ran, or whoever, as you would often find, but rather it's a single opinion. But he is paskening like it. Yes? So when he says Yesh Misha Omer, he's letting you know that it is one opinion. In this case, it's a Chuvas Rivosh, but he's following the Rivosh. He's paskening like the Rivosh. Now, question for you. How do you understand this? Would you say that passing like the Rivosh, that if somebody did such a thing, would you say it's Kiddushin Vadai or would you say Kiddushin Sofik? How do you read the Shulchan Aruch?
I mean, generally, if he gives one opinion, yes, that's not the halach with paskin, so that would, if it's Yesh.
Did you hear what I just...
Yes, but if it's the only opinion, that's the problem. But why is Why is it?
Maybe I didn't make myself clear.
Okay, maybe repeat.
Maybe I didn't make myself clear. Let me try again. When the Shulchan Aruch brings on its own a Yesh Mishomer, a standalone seif, there's no dissenting view.
Yeah.
But the Makor, it comes from a single view. Doesn't mean that anybody necessarily argues. In fact, he does not bring in a dissenting opinion. It means that it emanates from a single source as opposed to usually a composite or a number of. Yesh Mishomer means it only comes from a Yochid, but he's paskening like it. Because he's paskening. Right, so now I'll ask my question again. So would you say, therefore, if this happened, that would you, so he says it's Kiddushin. It's Kiddushin.
Yeah.
Would you say it is Kiddushin Sofik or Kiddushin Vadai? That's my question.
I would say Vadai.
What do you think?
I'm still thinking.
Okay, thinking is allowed. It's encouraged, I would hope. Where's the bit that I'm looking for? Look in Beis Shmuel, Sivkot Yud Zayin. Rabbi Isai, Beis Shmuel Yud Zayin. Where's your Shulchan Aruch? Do you have it in front of you?
I have it.
No.
There's
No, that's not my question. My friend, you have to come to Shul with a Shulchan Aruch. Please. I gave you out photocopies a while ago, I can't even remember.
I do have photocopies.
Well, no, so...
I do have the photocopies.
No, let's go. Beis Shmuel, Sivkotan, Yud Zayin. Gabi, you want to read it?
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
Have Omali, Mashma de have Kiddushe Vadai.
Oh,
Yes.
the Mashma.
Yeah.
That is the Kiddushin Vadai. That's what the Beis Shmuel.
So, Ubet Shuvas Rashba,
Simon
Simon
Tovshin Ein Daled.
Dalet, Katav, the Have,
Work out that abbreviation. It's not too hard.
It's
Not too hard. You should be able to work it out.
1 second. Safek Kiddushin.
Very good. He's contrasting it.
Yeah.
So the Mashmos, the simple reading is, of course, that it's Kiddushin. But the Chuvas Rashba is Mashma v'chein that it's
Safek.
Sofek Kiddushin. V'chein Mashma
Mitzvah.
Mitshuvas Rivosh, which is the Makir.
Yeah.
So basically, the Beis Shmuel is arguing with the Mechaba's understanding of the Rivosh.
So
The Makir of this halacha is a Rivosh.
one
Mechaba,
would say he means Vadai.
That's
and
right, that's right.
which
Very
would say
good.
He means Safek.
Very good indeed. Correct.
So in Simon Reish Same.
Yeah, that's all we need. That's all we need.
Yeah.
That's all we need for this. Very good. Well read and explained. That's right. So the Shulchan Aruch is mashma tzvadai. The Beis Shmuel is mashma. The Beis Shmuel's understanding of the Rivosh is that it is a Suffolk.
But
Yes.
But it says in Hay it says that Havi ke'omar li, that it is as if he would say li.
Mm-hmm.
And the condition we need to make it Vadai, as far as I understood, is to say li.
Therefore, what's
So
your
therefore,
point?
if it is like li, then I would really assume it's Vadai.
Correct. That is the opinion.
How would someone argue? How would the Beis Shmuel argue to say that it's
The Beis Shmuel is agreeing with you that is pshat in the Shulchan Aruch.
Mm-hmm.
You're quite right. That is the way. But he says 2 points. Number one, look in the Rashba argues, and number two, if you look in the Rivosh itself, which is the source,
Yeah.
he reads it differently. He says it's got different. Remember, he's not quoting the Shulchan Aruch is not quoting the exact words of the Rivosh. I didn't look up the Rivosh to see that. We could look at Beis Yosef. This is the base. This is the Shulchan Aruch. This is Rabbi Yosef Kara's understanding of the Rivosh.
Understanding is that what is here.
That's it. Very good. Genau.
Genau.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on that, the Beis Shmuel is saying, A, that's not the way I read the Rivosh, and number two, the Rashba says, otherwise, so it's a Sofek Kiddushin, it's not Vadai. He's being Machmir. Okay, and that's, I think that's more or less all we need from this Seif. There was one other point, I think. Where's it gone? Sorry. Chavdalad. Yeah, we can move on. Now we go to Lashonos, which are definitely not Lashonos of Kiddushin. The third category of Lashonos. Here we go. Shulchan Aruch, Seif, Vav. Omar Lo, Hareini Isheich. If he said to her, behold, I am your husband, Hareini Ba'alech, Hareini Aruseich, Einoi Klum. This is gar nix. It's nothing. afilu haya medaber imo tchila al iskei kiddushin. Even if
They already were.
there's no question as to the context, as to what's going on, remember, and really I want to take a step back just for a second and point out something which became clearer to me last night as I was preparing the next seif, which we're going to see, which is there are two parts to Kiddushin. And the Lomdische way, the correct way to analyze and to ask ourselves is, what are these two parts? There is a physical act, and there is a formula that is recited. There's a Maisa and there's a Dibur. Mm-hmm. And both, generally speaking, we need both components. We've already discussed at some length whether there's a proper din amira or not, the teras gittin, whether you can do b'shtika, however that works. Some achronim, some rishonim and achronim understand there is a loshon of kiddushin, there's a din of kiddushin, and of amira, and then we could ask ourselves very simply the following question: what is the role of this amira in kiddushin? Is it just to remove the defect or possible defect of a lack of clarity of what's going on, a gilui das, dvarim shebelev, or is it a chalois? Is it part of the chalois? Is it these two elements which together create kiddushin? And this is something which is discussed at great length by the Rishon. Well, more the achronim discussed this. So this is how we need to approach this. So when we have a language which is a bad language, right? Hareini isheich, and we'll have to discuss what the problem with it is. But it's the wrong language. It's not language of Kiddushin. So now I have an action, and if I have the asukim ba'isa inyan, so the action has a context. It has a frame of reference. It has a meaning. A man gives to a woman a shova pruta, and all concerned, including the Eidim, know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because there's asukim ba'isa inyan, everybody knows, everybody's clear what's going on. So the Maisa is brilliant. Then he goes and messes it up by saying hareini isheich, and we'll have to discuss. We're now going to see what the problem is. So what's happened? I've done two things that contradict each other. Is that what's going on? We'll have to see. Omalo hareini isheich hareini balach hareini aruseich einoi klum. It's nothing. Afilu haya medaber imo al iskei kiddushin. Mishum dichsiv ki yikach v'loi sheyikach es atzmoi.
It has to be.
He needs. That's right. The kicha is done from him to her. V'loi sheyikach es atzmoi, but not. He has to be loikeach her, not hareini isheich. So you could say he is picking himself up, so to speak, conceptually.
Yeah.
He is entering into a marital union with her, but he's doing it using the language by saying as if he is walking into that hareini isheich, rather than saying hareat mekudeshes li.
Yeah.
And just remember this, because we're going to come to this. We're going to come back to this, and therefore it's no good. Einoi klum. What would be nosan hakesef leechod v'omar loi hareat chobi? A man gives money to another man and says to him, "Behold, you are my father-in-law."
Do you mean that he through the father Mikal?
That's right. That's right. So he's giving a man kesef for the kiddushay bitoy. But v'lo yomar, if he didn't say bitchom ukudeshes li ein kan klum, ein boze klum. Let's leave that for a minute. We'll come back to that. Right. Let's analyze what's going on over here. So he says hareini isheich, hareini ba'alech, hareini aruseich, einoi klum. Now, yeah, and that is true even if they were speaking ba'isa. So the Rosh and the Shulchan Aruch, which is the Makor here, they clearly understand that we're not even chayesh lekiddushin. Einoi klum, right? Einoi klum. There's nothing. Not sofek.
It's worse than shtika, in a way.
Yes, very good.
Okay.
Very good. Now the Beis Shmuel over here brings. Let's see which, because I marked it. Let's see the Beis Shmuel inside. Einoi klum. Yeah, Gabi got it. Beis Shmuel,
Yeah.
Yud Ches.
Yeah.
V'chein kaimelon lekamon siman kuf mem aleph bebitul haget. Oh no, that is, sorry, that was the wrong one. That is about that it needs to be a loshon of lehabah. Afilu. Sorry, yes, I'm reading wrong. You're quite right. Senior moment. Yes, Yud Tes. Afilu hoya medaber. Even if the Shulchan Aruch says, even if they were talking Beiskei Kiddushin, kach pasuk harosh vatur. Mihu, says the Beis Shmuel, Rabbeinu Yerucham machmir bazeh. Because of b'shem yesh omrim to have a kiddushay vadai, v'yesh omrim to have a sofik, v'chein b'tshuvas mahari machmir. So Rabbeinu Yerucham brings two dissenting opinions. It's bechlal not clear. So we end up with the following. 1 second. So Rabbeinu Yerucham brings two opinions: either that it's kiddushay vadai, or that it's kiddushay sofek. So we end up with three opinions here. We have the Shulchan Aruch paskening like the Rosh, that even if you're Isaac, the kiddushin einoi klum. Then we have the Beis Shmuel bringing two opinions from Rabbeinu Yerucham: one that it's kiddushay vadai, it definitely works, and one that is kiddushay sofek. We have the entire range here, the entire range of opinions.
Makes sense, because
Go on.
according there, Bar Hamot and Toysvus, which require only to exclude that it's a voice of perfection or a present, it's very clear from the Dibor before that he tries to make Kadashis, and she understands that he's trying to make Kadashis.
Yes.
So it's not worse than Shtika, according to the Bar Hamot and Toysvus. According to the according to the Rashba, we have a Sophic, because what the Adam see, and maybe because we have a wrong Loshan, the Adam, maybe if there's or ambiguous Loshan,
possibly
is a problem. Rashba, I would say, would pass in the Sophic. And the Chafetz Chaim obviously would pass him that's Einu Klum.
That's for sure.
Yes, because he says
Chaim and the Torah's Gittin. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Very good. Very good. Very good. Okay. Let's move on. Siv Zayin, and this is a really important and a very classic sugya. And in order to get into this, I would like to learn a little piece of Gemara with you. I'm sorry, I should have photocopied it. I didn't. Maybe I ought to have done. And just check here in my notes that I haven't left anything out on the last Sa'if. Don't think so. No. Let's move forward. Okay. Little piece of Gemara, which I want to learn with you. So listen up. Here is a Gemara, Daf Hey Amud Beis, in Kiddushin, important Gemara. The Gemara says as follows: there are two Lashonos, two versions in this Gemara, in the following case. 1 second. Says the Gemara, Ton Rabban, Keitzad B'Kesef. It tells us how you do Kiddusha Kesef, and it says as follows: Aval hi shenosna v'omra hi hareini mekudeshes lach hareini moses lach hareini hari lach into eina mekudeshes. Right? If she gives and she says, definitely no good. If he gives and he says, definitely good. Says the Gemara, what would be nosanhu v'omrahi? What would be if he gave and she said? Right? Is it good or not? And the Gemara says there seems to be the two parts of the Brisa would appear, the implication would appear to contradict themselves. And the Gemara says as follows: Elahochi koma. Nosanhu v'omarhu pshita to have a kiddushin. Nosanhu v'omrahi nase kamisha nosnahi v'omrahi v'loy have a kiddushin. This is the first lashon in the Gemara. He gives and she says. What does she say? Presumably hareini mekudeshes loch b'tabazu kedas Moshe Yisrael. Right? So the Nesina is good, the Amira is no good. It's called Nosanhu v'omrahi. Says the Gemara in the first lashon, Nase kamisha nosnahi v'omarhu. Then it's just like if if she gave and she said, which is definitely no good. That's the first lashon. V'iboy seima. If you want, I will tell you an alternative version, alternative view. Nosan hu v'amahu mekudeshes. Nos nahi v'amrahi definitely ain't mekudeshes. Nosan hu v'amrahi sveikohi v'chayshinon midarabonon. That's the reason I'm doing this with you is because it's important to hear that before we get to the Shulchan Aruch. The Lashon HaGemara is actually Nosan hu v'amrahi. Don't know, might work. Sveikohi, 4 words. Sveikohi, it is a suffix. V'chayshinon midarabonon. And midarabonon, we are concerned. We take into account the view that it may well be a Kiddushin. Okay? That's the Gemara.
In the case where he is saying...
Nosan hu v'amrahi.
So there must be...
He gives, she says.
So according to the Gemara, there must be something which is more connecting the dibor to her, and
Explain what you mean.
There must, if there wasn't like a more of a connection between dibor and her, and the giving and him, then the Gemara would view it as the same as her giving and him saying, and say it's klum.
That's the first view.
Right.
The second view is...
The second view would be not expressing some connection with the dibor to her specifically and the giving to him specifically. We wouldn't have a suffix. We would also say it's klum.
But he did give and she said.
Right. So that's what.
And it's a suffix.
Right. Right.
So I did not understand.
If
what are you trying to say?
Version before,
so the first one says
that
unless he does both, it's nothing to talk about. No Kiddushin. The second one says if he gives and she says, suffix. Maybe it's good.
And
Go
the
on.
other case is not...
Let me finish.
And the other case was if she's giving, she's giving and he's saying, we're also saying it's
definitely no good.
Right,
That's
exactly.
definitely no good.
So according, if they were the same, if him saying and her giving and him giving and her saying would be the same, we wouldn't have a suffix.
Right.
So there must be something which is inherent to Dibu, which is connected to her action, which is more important to her, and the giving could be more important that he is doing it.
I think what you're trying to say, if I've understood, I'm saying I'm sure it's my fault. Yeah. I'm overtired. Go on.
Because of the asymmetry of the cases, we see that him giving is more important than him saying.
Which I think is what you were saying. That's what you were saying.
Maybe also her speaking is not more important.
It doesn't...
Yeah.
Right,
okay.
But his Maisa is somehow more...
Correct. That's what it seems.
Okay, right.
Now, let's learn Sifches. Okay? No san hu va'omrohi. Sorry, did I miss out Siv Zion? Yes, I did. How stupid. Siv Zion, sorry. Nosno hi loy kesef.
Yeah.
Va'omro hareini mekudeshes loch eino mekudeshes.
Right.
She gives and she says, nothing to talk about. Eino mekudeshes.
Yeah.
Interesting language, not ein bekach klum or anything. Eino mekudeshes. She's not mekudesh. Nothing to talk about. That finished. And there.
Yeah.
The Beis Shmuel doesn't even. Oh, he does actually. He does say something. Even if they, this is important. Sorry. Even if they were talking about speaking by Inyoni Kiddushin, they were sukim by Inyan. Then, so you might say, well, then it's like he has spoken, but it's still no good. And there may be an afgemina, which we may get to later when we do Seif Tes, actually. But we'll leave that because I want to get started at least, and we're not going to finish it today. It's a beautiful and an important thing. We'll spend a little bit of time on it to get it clear. Is the following: Sifches. Let's do it. No san hu va'omrohi. He gives her a ring, and she says, "Hareini mekudeshes loch." Im hoya medaber imo al iskei kiddushin. Have a vadai kiddushin. If he gives, then the fact that she says, but they were medaber b'iskei kiddushin, they were sukim b'seinian, her amira does not detract or override or create a suffix to cancel the effect of asukim ba'isa inyan, and she is vadai mekudeshes. What would be if they were not asukim ba'isa inyan? So we had two versions in the Gemara, and the Shulchan Aruch paskins v'imlav have a sofik kiddushin. So the Shulchan Aruch is paskening like the second lashon in the Gemara, right? We have nosan hu v'omrohi. No other mitigating or explaining factors. There's no asukim ba'isa inyan. It's a sofik kiddushin. Which words are missing here? Thank you. There are two words in the Shulchan Aruch, and that's why one of the reasons I wanted to do the Gemara with you first. There's two words here missing, which, as a result of their omission, we're going to see, creates a massive machlekes. Because the question now is, what does the Shulchan Aruch mean? The Gemara says, have a sofek, v'chayshishim midrabana, v'chayshil midrabana. The Shulchan Aruch says, have a sofek kiddushin. And we would be excused for thinking, as indeed the Rambam does, that it's a sofek kiddushin and it's a sofek minat Torah. Sofek kiddushin, it's a sofek minat Torah. Let's see, we're going to see. One more halacha. Ve'im ono habal hein b'shas nesina. This is a Ramah, if I'm not mistaken. The Shulchan Aruch adds one more halacha. If the Baal answers, she says, so he gives a turn, she says, Hareini, Mukudesh, and he says, Hein, yes, b'shas kiddushin, have a vadai kiddushin, afilu ein asukin ba'isa inyan. It's definitely good kiddushin, and we have overcome the defect of her Amira by the Baal saying Hein. He's given it. They will not, even if they're not Isaac by Sinin, it's Vadai Kiddushin. So let's get this clear. There are three possible scenarios with a Nosan Hu v'omrohi. Number one, if they are Asukim ba'isa inyan, it's Vadai Kiddushin. Number two, if he says Hein, it's Vadai Kiddushin. If they were not Asukim ba'isa inyan, and he doesn't say Hein, it is Sofik Kiddushin. That's all we know. Sofik Kiddushin. Now, let's start drilling down into what is going on over here. Before we get to the Shulchan Aruch even and the Mefarshim, I want to share with you some of the Shittas HaRishonim here, because it's going to be important. Rashi. We start off with Rashi, and here there are actually Rashi in the Gemara, and there's two Girsois in the Rashi. The Rashba had another Girs in the Rashi, but I'll read you the Girsa that we've got. So Rashi says, why is it no good? Omrohi, Domi letikach isha leish. It is as if tikach isha leish, as if the woman is taking the man. And that is the problem of Omrohi. That is the problem of Omrohi. But the Rashba had a different girsa in Rashi, and the girsa he had was tilokach isha leish, which then he understands to mean that the problem is one of consent. Then that the problem is that it is as if she and the Rashba asks, that's not the right limud to say that it doesn't work, because veloi tilokach isha leish is compulsion, and that's not what we're discussing here. So the Rashba argues on the reason that it's no good. Rashi says the psul is, it says ki, because it has to be ki yikach and not ki tilokach. The Rashba says the psul is because it's ki yikach v'lo shetikach es atzma, not that she takes herself. He has to do the kicha. The Mishnah Lemelech, as a third opinion, says that the problem is maybe he's not masking to the Kiddushin. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. It's all in his das, which then would explain the Hain, why the Hain is okay. Those are the three main opinions here in the Rishonim as to why it's no good. Let me just add.
What's the third one?
The third one is the Mishnah Lemelech, who says that the problem is one of das. Maybe the man is not masking. Maybe he doesn't agree. That's therefore, if he says Hain, it's going to be okay. There's an important. I'm just going to quickly mention a Chazon Ish over here. the Chazon Ish comments on this Rashi. He says that Rashi here holds like the Ran in Nedarim. The Ran in Nedarim says that the way Kiddushin is meant to work is the woman is meant to be like, I stress, because this is not, so it shouldn't be misinterpreted as misogyny or something like this. As far as the Kinyan works, the way it is meant to work is, it is as if the woman is a dovar hefka, a chayfetz, and the man is machnis her into his rishus. Right? That is the Ran. The Ran says, Ein leisha lahachnis atzmo l'rishus ha'ish, says the Ran, Elohim vateles es da'ata u'ritzoina. She, the correct word in English is, she's acquiescent. He is the active one, and of course she has to agree. She sticks out her finger, she doesn't need to say anything under the chuppah. However, not politically correct that might be, it's too bad. She's not machnis the Baal into her rishus. And she's not even machnis herself into his rishus. Notice, she is not, says the Ran, even machnis herself into his rishus. She is, as it were, neutral, as like a chayfetz of hefka, and she is mevatel, that's the Lashon Ran, she is mevatel da'ata uritzoina. Of course she has to agree, there's no coercion. And then he is machnis her into her rishus. And that is, according to Rashi, that's how the Chazon Ish understands, that the defect is, according to Rashi over here. Yes?
So her speaking is not validating any act that she's doing, but it really is battling his Amira strength to take her into his rishus. It's like...
it does. Is the lambda so that this Amira is mevatel, or I'm not sure if it necessarily overrides, but it gives a context and a meaning to what's going on over here, which is not in line with ki yikach ish isha for the reasons outlined as the Chazon Ish says. Correct. So now let's go. A few minutes. Let's start understanding Safek. Chashina midrabana. So the Meiri. Go through some of the Rishonim here. The Meiri writes that the Safek, when the Gemara says Safek, the Safek is a Safek in din. It's a proper Safek. In other words, when the Torah says ki yikach, the words in the Torah for Kiddushin are ki yikach ish isha. And the question is, how far does the definition of ki yikach extend? The parameters of ki yikach, does it apply just to nesina, the act, or does it incorporate the language as well? That's the fundamental shaila, and that is the Safek. And therefore, says the Meiri, so the Safek is a Safek de'oraisa. It is a Safek, it is a doubt. We are unclear how to interpret the posuk, the ki yikach. Does the ki yikach only apply to the nesina, or does it also go to the Amira? So that's a Safek de'oraisa. So how does the Gemara say chayshinon midirabanon? He says, it's very simple. He says, because Keshitas Rambam. The Rambam's opinion is that every Safek D'Oraisa is only Midarabonon L'chumra. That's all the Gemara means. Sveikahi, and the Meiri holds like the Rambam. The Shitas Rambam, the Yodua is, in many places, that every Safek D'Oraisa min HaTorah is L'kula, it's only Midrabonon L'chumra. So the Gemara says Sveikahi, which the Meiri says means, of course, it's a Safek D'Oraisa. What does Ki Yikach mean? Does Ki Yikach incorporate the Nesina or the Nesina and the Amira? That's a real Safek D'Oraisa. But what do we do? Says the Gemara, Chashinon Midrabonon. It's almost a validating source for the, I don't know why he doesn't say there's a raya, but that's how he learns it. The problem will be, what's the problem going to be? Let's see how other Rishonim learn. Says the Rashba also writes that the Safek is Midoraisa. Although it might be a slightly different Safek than the Meiri, because he learns the miyot of is ki yikach v'lo shetilokach. There is a miyot, by the way. I didn't want to get into it. Really, when we learn this to get, bittul get, it's a Safek D'Oraisa. The Rashba also writes very clearly, it's actually in the Talmidei or Rashba, but it's called the Das of the Rashba, that it is the that it's a Sofik Deraisa. Same thing, Ki Yikach, how far does it go? Now we have a real problem. Because we don't have the luxury of saying the Meiri's answer, because the Rashba is one of the main protagonists against the Rambam. He holds Sofik Deraisa min ha-Torah l'chumra. So how can he learn the Gemara? How can he on the one hand say Sveikohi, meaning it's a Sofik Deraisa, but v'chayshina midrabanan? How can it be chayshina midrabanan? The chayshina should be midiraisa.
That's why it doesn't say here.
So but there are one. You want to answer? Okay, go on.
So if we have a mitzvah aseh, like Kiddushin or like Kriya Shema, then the question is how much the Rabbanan can invalidate the mitzvah aseh, which Raisa would be valid. For example, if you say Kriya Shema after
I'm with you. I know that. So how's that going to come in over here?
So
Sofik Deraisa, whether there's been in other words, she is now a Sofik Eishasish.
Yeah.
Now come along with your Drabanan. What are you going to say?
So first of all, the Rabbanan got the power to define when somebody is Mikadosh or not. I think the pratim of Kiddushin.
Yeah. Are you sure you want to go down that route? Do you think that's what the Gemara meant? Chayshina midrabanan.
Maybe. Because
and then why should it be so? Why do we say here v'chayshina kiddushin? But we don't this lashon of chayshina midrabanan we don't find with the other lashonas which are sophic lashonas of kiddushin.
Okay.
You have to ask yourself, there's something going on over here that in this case nasan huva omrohi sophic here it's a sveika deraisa and chayshina midrabanan. Why is the chashash midrabanan? So one possible answer is that the Eidim are being made on a Sofik Kiddushin, which is a problem in Eidus. Eidus, especially Eidus L'Kiyum Adava, but you have to be made on something which is Vadai. So you've got Eidus Sofik. You combine remember, and the Eidus is an integral part of the validity of the process. So the process itself is big question mark min ha-Torah. Big question mark. The Eidus, which is an integral part of the process, because the process is a Sofik, therefore the Eidus is also Sofik. I don't have Eidus on a Vadai.
Right.
I don't have Eidus. You need to have Eidus on a Vadai Kiddushin. I definitely don't have Eidus on a Vadai Kiddushin. And if you combine that with the Chezkas Pnuya that she has, until now, she had a chazaka that she was not an Eishasish. So the chazaka of the Pnuya, together with the Sofik Eidus, combines to say that we are going to be chayesh, but we only need to be chayesh midrabanan. And this is something that I'm going to go into next week because there's a lot more to be said on this. Okay, so we have made a start.